Hello, everybody. Welcome to the interesting show.
Hello, everyone. I'm Janet.
I'm Irene.
So, what are we going to talk about today?
Today, we have a special guest.
Like the last two episodes, we actually invited someone from USA.
Today, we have someone from UK.
That's right. We are super international.
So, let's welcome
Martin.
Hello, guys. Welcome.
Welcome.
Nice to be
our
here.
show.
Thank you for inviting me.
No problem.
Can you do a short introduction?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sure. So my name's Martin, as you've already said. I've lived in Taiwan now 20 years. Seems a long time, but 20 years it is. Yeah, as you've said, I came from England. I come from a small town, centre of England. It's very convenient for London, but as I say, it is in the centre, just south of a town called Leicester, or a city actually called Leicester. I'm a country boy. Rural boy, yeah, farming country boy. I'm not a city boy, generally speaking, although I've adapted to city life quite well since being in Taiwan. I studied German language and linguistics as my educational background, and basically here I am in Taiwan.
Oh, so, sorry again. Your born town is called...
My hometown is a very, very small village, I guess. You can call it a town. It's a cross between a town and a village. It's called Desborough. Now, Desborough is just south of Leicester. Very rural, as I said earlier on, with about 2,000, 3,000 people. You can call it a small town. It's quite big, but it's not so big as such, you know. So, yeah.
Do you, finish all your study there, or you moved to other countries?
No, actually, I finished primary school there, and then we have junior high school in the next town.
Oh, okay.
There's another town called Rothwell, and it shares its name with a city or a town in the US, actually, of a similar name. Which state? I can't remember the state, but it has a twinned town. So I did my high school there, and then I moved away from the area to independent life, you know, go and be independent. Yeah.
You live independent, after junior high school?
I did, yes. Sorry, after
early.
senior. Sorry.
So
after
you live in
senior.
a dorm?
I did,
in a school.
yes, I did. I lived in Oxford.
Okay.
I studied in Oxford languages, and I lived in a dormitory with 4 other students. Very small, well, I say very small community. The dormitory was actually pretty big. It was if you could imagine Harry Potter.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of dormitory kind of style, but we only had 4 people within that dormitory. So kind of you got to know everybody quite intimately, really, you know, so it was quite interesting.
Oh, so the campus is big?
Yeah, the campus is it's made up of many different colleges, of course, but I mean, it's a very beautiful campus. It's what I call a tourist attraction campus, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a kind of a touristy kind of campus as well. Basically, you know, people come and visit. They can walk around, not specifically during term time, but they can come and walk around sort of weekends and have a look at the colleges and the architecture, that kind of thing. The thing I didn't like, I'll share something I didn't like. The thing I didn't like was the necessity to wear a black gown. And what they call the mortarboard hat, the flat hat, similar to what you would wear when you graduate from college.
Yeah.
We had to wear that walking between college campuses.
Really?
Every day?
Yes.
So this is like a uniform style?
It's kind of uniform. You could wear underneath what you liked. You know, you could even go in jeans. It was fine. Professors were kind of, cool with that, you know. But generally speaking, you had to wear this. And the ruling was, because I argued about this, the ruling was, because, you know, we're there to set an image to the public. If people see us, we need to make sure that we have that beautiful
image
image of a Russell
For the
Group
tourism?
School. Basically, that's it for
that
the
is
people
quite
outside.
strange.
So, but you get into the classroom, you could remove it. Just hang it up on the peg and, you know, away you go with your normal clothes, you know. It's just a strange kind of rule, isn't it?
Is the rule still there?
As far as I know, it's still there because I see people every day when I've been there before. You'd see them every day walking around with the same clothing on.
Wow.
And it's not just at graduation, it's every day.
Wow.
And they don't have smiles on their faces, so it tells you that, like me, they don't like it, probably, you know.
I mean, no matter the weather. it's like you need to wear that.
That's it.
If it's pretty hard, you still need to wear it.
Hot in the UK? Well,
Sorry?
I mean, it gets to the mid-20s, 24, 25, but that's hot.
Yeah.
That's a heat wave in the UK, but
Yeah.
we'd still have to wear it.
But it's the
Okay.
same material, even like designed for winter.
Same. Yeah.
Jeez. Okay.
And it's pretty thick. It's not really thin. I would say it's pretty thick. So you kind of feel hot in the summer, but you kind of feel quite warm in the winter. You don't mind it too much in the winter. In the winter, you kind of like, how would I describe it? You think, oh, it's an extra coat. It's an extra jacket. But in the summer, it's like, oh, get me out of this.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's other good things about it. I mean, the good things are that you do move around different sort of buildings, wonderful architecture, good teachers, etc. Yeah, but I think you grow up quite a lot. You're independent from 18. I mean, students are generally nowadays, but when I went to university many years ago now, people were not generally independent. They kind of gravitated to stay at home, like live at home and then just choose a college near the home that was convenient. Because they still wanted to be part of their family life kind of thing. In UK, that's still a big sort of cultural thing, that they don't move too far away from, or they didn't move too far away from home in the past. But now it's kind of like it is much like Taiwan, students go and live in dormitories and things like that now. But in my time, it wasn't quite like that. So I did grow up quite quickly. You have to think smart and independently. So, yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. I must admit I did enjoy it, yeah.
So do you join any like club or something?
Yeah, I did. Actually, I joined this. Well, you don't have to, but I did. Everybody does. Student union I joined. I got involved with the student union. I also joined their soccer team.
Oh.
Yeah, the football team. I used to play goalkeeper for their soccer team. They also have, I didn't do this though. I can swim well. That's not the point. But I didn't join their rowing team. They have a rowing team.
Yeah. That is quite a big thing for in the UK school though.
Yeah, that's it. But in Oxford and also in Cambridge, because they're kind of rivals in sport, Oxford and Cambridge every year they have a boat race. I don't know if you're familiar with this. The boat race, it takes place in London on the River Thames, and they choose the best people to row the boat, and they usually go head to head every year. Cambridge usually pretty good at it, actually. They've got the stronger athletes usually. But I never really moved towards that. I looked at it and thought, I could do that, be on the TV, but I thought, no, it's not something I really have probably the upper arm strength to do to row. But I did swim for the university. I swim breaststroke for the university, took part in a lot of competitions. So, yeah, it's not just about study. I got involved sort of extracurricular things. Yeah.
Wow, you do a lot of like exercise activity when you're.
I did, yeah. Because when I was younger, I'm gaining weight now. I'm getting fat now. But when I was younger, I was quite thin. Actually, I was very thin when I was younger. So it helped me because I could run. I used to do like 200-meter running, that kind of thing as well. A little bit of athletics. I didn't do the hurdles where you have to jump over I can't do that. It's a bit too challenging, But I did like sport when I was younger, I must admit,
The atmosphere like in UK university is very popular in exercise activity, right?
Yeah, definitely. I would say what I notice. The difference between sort of where I am now in Taiwan and the UK, for example, that's a very good question. What they actually do is they tend to focus on extracurricular activities as well. It's not just purely you have to study. You do to get your degree to be able to be somebody. But, we're taught in the UK balance your life. Go get experiences other than your sort of working. Other than your study experience. So yeah, they do move towards sport. Clubs, chess. They have chess clubs and things like this as well, which I found quite interesting. Never been one for chess. It's a bit analytical and a bit mathematical for me. But it was not something I would do. But yeah, they do tend to move towards extracurricular more than I think they probably do in Taiwan, to be perfectly honest. Yeah.
What would you say that when you are starting, like how many time you spending on studying and how many time you spending on like join a club or something?
Do you want me to be honest on this or?
I mean, like the subject that you're studying, like the German language. Would that takes you a lot of time to explore or to really takes time to study.
Yeah, it does. That's actually.
You probably need to also learn the history about it.
Yes, the linguistics are involved. So what you're learning is like you're studying the language and how it's used, grammatically, the syntaxes, etc., etc. But you're also learning the background history, how the language evolved, and so you're going into detail of the linguistic side. It takes a lot of time. You have to be dedicated to it. I'll be honest with you while we're talking about this, but there was a time where I thought, this is not for me. I can't do this. And I got halfway through the course. I was in my second year, about a year and a half, because we do a 3-year bachelor in the UK. We can do a 3-year one in the UK. It's not just a 4. You can have a 3-year course. Not everybody chooses that, but you can have it. So I chose a 3-year, which was actually probably a little bit too demanding. But halfway through, so about a year and a half, I was thinking, this really isn't for me. It is too challenging. It's too difficult. I found I was kind of losing my direction a little bit, and I was thinking, well, is this what I want? But I'm thinking, well, if I do change now, what actually am I going to do? Sport? Probably not. I do like sport, but I'm probably not that kind of a committed person 100% to it. So I had to stick at it, because I would already covered at least 60% in that 1.5 years, because it's very, very demanding course. So I stuck with it and obviously got the degree, of course. But I think had I been able to change it, I would have liked to have done. Do I spend, in answer to your question as well, did I spend enough time on extracurricular activities? I would like to think sometimes when I didn't really like going to the courses, yes, I did. I probably spent too much time, on the athletics track or in the swimming pool than I probably did study in it sometimes. But I think, it kind of benefited me at the end, I think, be honest. Yeah.
When you choose to major in German, did you learn it before? Before you went into the college?
had, yes. Yeah. That set me on the advantage. I think that's what made me want to pursue it to university level, because I'd already got the background in it. Because in England I guess we're forced to. It's a requirement to learn a foreign language when you're in junior high school. Mm-hmm. You're forced to have one as a requirement, and you can opt to do a second language if you are sort of linguistically minded, So I opted to do French as my second language, European languages, because we didn't have Chinese at that time. I would have loved, having lived in Taiwan so many years, I would have loved to have actually probably learnt Chinese back then, but you just don't know what your future's going to be. But if we'd have had Chinese in the schools at the time, I would definitely went for Chinese, Mm-hmm. But I mean, having the background in German, one, it was very helpful to go into the higher level degree because you've already got a broad scope of what you're going to learn. But I think, does it help long term? Probably not, because you step into the next level, if you know what I mean. You're going beyond the high school kind of conversational level thing, So,
do you find it difficult to learn it?
Like which language is more difficult to learn, French or German?
Definitely German. Because their grammar structure is totally different. Because what I mean by that is they put their verbs at the end of the sentences, not after the subject. I will do something. Mm-hmm. They will say, in translated terms, they will say, do something will.
Oh.
Yeah, so you've got to always think your verb will go at the end of your sentence. But in French, it follows the English pattern.
Oh, okay.
So what I mean by that is, you've got the structure of the grammars similar to English, but also the vocabulary, the wording of different sentences, it's very similar to English.
French is similar.
Yeah, extraordinary in English, for example, you've got similar in French, extraordinaire. So you've got a connection. So I think when you look at certain words in French, you're thinking, I know this in English. You're excited because you're yes, I know this, and you can do it. You can pick it up and you can test well and you can catch the drift, as we call it. But I think in German, you can't. You look at it and you go, and this, from the beginning, you're and this means exactly what? Like the word pencil. So the pencil or something to write with in French would be crayon. Mm-hmm. Now, we imagine crayon in Western English as something you draw a colour with. So you can connect. Although it's not exactly the same, you can connect. But in German, you cannot. Pencil, we say Bleistift.
Bleistift.
You cannot connect that to the word pencil.
Oh yeah.
It's like
You have no idea what to
correct.
think. Though.
Yeah, correct. I think what you have to assume is that for German, you either know it and learn it, or you don't. There's no in between, if you know what I mean.
I've tried to like for 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah,
And gave up.
It was like because one day that I listened to a song, it's a German song that I was quite like it.
Okay.
So I have a friend, she is a major in German too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then I asked her and she explained the lyrics for me. And then after 2 hours, I gave up.
Yeah.
It was too hard.
Did you find that maybe you could have done it in the future, do you think?
Yeah, probably. But I'm learning French right now. So I think probably I
Easier.
can. It's easier.
Generally
it's
easier. It's generally
yeah,
easier,
yeah.
But I think generally languages for Westerners, I mean, we'll talk specifically UK. Obviously, I'm from the UK, but I think for UK people, it's generally accepted that we would learn languages easier than probably Eastern people because we're connected to the European languages, Spanish, French, German, Italian. So if you're connected to them and you're listening to them quite regularly, you're going to get it's clicking like this. You're thinking, yeah, I got an understanding. I kind of know what you're saying. But you come to Asia, for example, and you're like blown away.
It's totally different language system.
Yeah, totally different language system.
When you are learning German, do you have any like chance when you are in UK to practice with other people?
Oh, yeah, you do. I mean, we had actually an exchange visit.
Oh, okay.
To Germany.
Yeah, to Germany. We go to the colleges. I actually went to Frankfurt to the college. So we get a chance to go there. It's not long. It's longer now. You can get a year exchange programs nowadays, but we didn't have that luxury when I was younger. We had like, as I remember thinking back, 3 months, I think it was. We didn't have long. But it was long enough to be able to pick up even just simple things like not just academic language, but just everyday usage. You had more confidence to use the language, and they also kind of were able to use English with you as well. They wanted to use English, but you were expected to, use German more than you would use English. It was kind of like an exchange as such, but I think that was very helpful. In the class, not really, other than with the professors, because obviously the professors were from Germany or Austria or Switzerland that speak German, of course. But we were limited on who we had because they were mainly, I would say, at the time I was in university, it was kind of limited to not so many international students, and certainly, there weren't many German people coming to learn German language and linguistics.
Oh, yeah.
They kind of, but not really, one or two. But you didn't have the scope. Not really, no. Only with the professor, really, to be honest, who expected you to have a good understanding of German, because obviously a lot of the lectures were conducted purely in German and not English. So, which made it more challenging, I think. Yeah.
So would your professor deliver the lesson in German?
He did, yeah, some of them, yes. Not every professor, I won't say some professors did.
Some professors.
Yeah. And you're expected to write your reports in German as well as English. You had a mix. Certain professors would require German, certain professors would require English. It just depended on what you were doing, Your final thesis and things were always in English, of course, but your reports or your research or whatever, you would conduct some of that in German, which is all more challenging. The brain's frazzling, it's like barbecue in the brain when you're trying to do that. You can't imagine, but that's what it was.
Let's talk back to your your university life or your daily life in UK.
Yeah.
Do you have any habit? Going to bar or anything?
So it's a good idea, that one, especially
watching
this time
football.
Of year. Oh, yes.
Football game.
Absolutely, yeah. To be honest, yes. Drinking's one of the cultures. I never did smoking, and I never did the soft drugs, that people smoke in the marijuana, that was always common in the UK,
Okay.
Wasn't allowed, but it was common, But no, I never fancied that one. I was never one for smoking or anything. But drinking, yes. Give me a bottle of whiskey or get me to a bar and what we would call in English, I'm game, I'll do it, Used to do that, not regularly, but we would obviously, those groups of us, would go and watch football games in the bar, we'd go to a sports bar. Actually, when I was in uni, not every weekend I couldn't do it, but before I joined uni, for example, just before, in the period before, I actually travelled to, and this is what I call my claim to fame, I travelled to 42 matches to follow the team I support. I actually support a team called Leicester. As I said, I lived near there, so I opted for that team when I was a young lad to support them. And basically, in one season, the season now is only 38 games, but before it used to be 42. I actually travelled to 42 games. So that means I travelled to every single game, home and away, in that one season. Because I used to love it. Cost money, cost a lot of money.
Yeah, his house costs a lot.
I was like, parents, give me some money, help fund the ticket price. And
you went alone?
Because I could drive.
You drive? Oh.
I was driving to the games. Sometimes we took the bus. It just depended. I mean, if you're travelling from sort of my town to somewhere like a big town like Newcastle or Liverpool, some of these games are 8 o'clock at night. So you probably wouldn't drive yourself. You'd probably take the bus. You'd have to pay for like what we call the supporters bus that goes from the soccer club. They run a bus and you have to pay for that. No, I didn't used to go on my own. There used to be 3 of us that went, sometimes just 2.
Okay.
My good friend, he actually went with me. We did 42 games in one season.
That is crazy.
So that's what everybody says. It's like they're all like,
that
hey,
is
man,
crazy.
Hey, you got loads of money? I'm like, no, because at that time it wasn't, the ticket prices were not that expensive. They were like 500 NT, 600. You probably think that's a lot, but now it's like 3,000, 4,000 NT per game. So you know the inflation and things. So that was one of my hobbies. Used to love that. I used to travel a lot. Of course, you can't do it when you're studying, but in the sort of holidays that we had, I used to like to travel in Europe. I done a lot of traveling across Europe. I actually did backpacking across Europe. What they call a rail tour backpack, backpacking. You get your little backpack, you get your Rail Europe ticket, and off you go on the trains and go around Europe. Did that on my own. That was a very good experience.
Did you sleep on the sofa, or do you go to a backpacker?
Initially, you sleep on the train. You have, like these sleeping compartments on the train that were quite reasonably cheap in those days, Then you just choose the backpacker in, it's like, you can't imagine what they're like. People imagine. Actually, it's amazing. People imagine them as being, you lie down and there's cockroaches crawling all over you. These kind of places that you see in Thailand. They're not like this. In Europe, they're a little bit more. Actually, the backpackers in Europe are probably more like a 3-stroke, 4-star hotel, really. They're pretty good. They're actually pretty good. They have to meet a standard. So used to do that. Used to sleep on the train. Never slept on the beach, though. That's one thing I should have done, I think.
Beach?
Yeah, people just, they just sleep on the beach, don't they, with their backpacks.
Anyone really do that?
Yeah, they do. They actually do. I've seen it in Italy, they do.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's not just the Italians that do it. There's
okay.
There's the Swiss do it, and I'm quite amazed the Swiss do, but they do. French do it. They're all doing it. They're all sort of on the beach, little barbecue, and they don't go home. Because when you come back the next day, I'd go out for a walk the next morning. They're still there. They're like comatized on alcohol kind of thing. But you know what I mean? It's drunk. Like, that's an experience.
Will they have any camp or something? Or they just lay down without any?
No, what they do is they just use the backpack as a pillow.
Oh,
and they're just fully clothed. They just lie down on the sand. It's like, thankfully the sea doesn't come in too much. They're high up the beach. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So they're lucky. But I'm thinking, nah, it doesn't really kind of grab me, that one. Maybe I'm too conservative. Maybe I'm not too liberal, as they call it.
They are very hipster. Though. They are very hipster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
wow.
Definitely.
Do you have any favorite or most impression country when you travel?
I do. Yes, I do actually. I've travelled to many. I would say for me, Poland.
Ooh.
Poland would be the most impressive for me, I think. I have to say that. I mean, everybody will argue the way countries are run by their leaders and everything, but it's just run properly. The country's run properly. Crime rate's pretty low. People are friendly and welcoming. And I think the most important thing is the transportation and the welcome that you get as a visitor to Poland is just different than you find in other countries. A lot of other countries kind of like a bit alienation towards you, like, ooh, you're a foreigner, ooh, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
But I think, Poland is very welcoming, and the architecture in Poland as well. I like the people. Unfortunately, I don't speak the language yet. I'm trying, but it's difficult.
It's more difficult than German.
Definitely, yes, because it sort of focuses on a mix of their own language, which is Polish, of course, and there's a blend. They will say not, but there is. There's a blend of Russian in there as well. A little bit, so it's hard to, and the way they write is different as well. Worth a visit.
Mm-hmm.
Worth a visit.
Yeah. I haven't been to Europe before, actually.
The ones I would avoid then, I would say, would be don't go to France, I don't think. I think,
Oh.
no,
You mean
everybody
now?
wants to sort of...
But like
Why is that?
people say that the crisis rate is high there.
Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
still like,
I don't.
I still have a little dream to go there.
I don't know if that is like in our stereotype imagination, because like all we hear from friends, like people there weren't that family or easygoing though. They are kind of arrogant.
If you go outside of Paris, for example,
Mm-hmm.
you will find people are friendly and welcoming. I mean, I've travelled a lot in France. I've travelled to the rural areas of north, south, east and west. I've travelled to the very rural areas, where you see on the TV, the countryside, open the door and there's pigs and sheep out there. I've been to those sort of places and they are so welcoming people, I have to say. But if I go to Paris, and I'm not saying this against any particular Parisian person, but it's just a totally different world. It's just... It's not what you imagine. Everybody imagine, ooh, Emily in Paris and all the love style, but it's not like that. The reality of it is, I would say, I have to be critical. I'll be critical. It's probably a little bit dirty. It's very multicultural, but not always in a positive way. Too many immigrants, etc., but that's political. But what I'll also say is that people think it's the city of love and romance. For me, it's a city probably of pickpockets and thieves at the minute. That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
At the minute, that's what I would say about Paris. I would encourage you to go to Germany. Germany's kind of a bit unstable right now at the minute, but I would still encourage you to go there, for not just because of the architecture, but people are more welcoming, I feel, as well. Poland, definitely. Czech Republic, it's okay. Those sort of places. I would say Eastern Europe or southeastern Europe area, but not too far southeastern, not Mediterranean, but just above. They're pretty okay.
Oh.
Or if you really want really, really special experiences, Northern Europe, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, brilliant, lovely places, absolutely lovely places.
Do you have any suggestion for people that if they tourist to UK, what is the food that they must try?
Oh, that's a good question, isn't it? I think the first thing, I think the first thing that springs to mind here is probably fish and chips.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, I would think. They're not French fries. People imagine the chips, what we call chips. A person who has never been to England, probably never researched it. You can research it on the internet, but people who've never researched it, they might say, chips, but that's like potato chips, right? Because they're thinking American English, And I'm like, no, go on Google, have a look at the pictures, It's like fish and chips, they're the little chunks of potato fried up with the battered fish. Yeah, fish and chips is one. We have a very special Sunday lunch in the UK. I don't think I've never seen it anywhere else in the world. Oh. Nobody's tried to copy it either. Whether that's because it's uncopyable, I don't know. But we have one. We call it Sunday roast, ROAST. Now the roast part of it could be the chicken, or it just could be beef. And what we have with it is the usual. You have your vegetables and your baked potatoes. But we have a very special dish that goes with it. And it's like a pudding, but it's not a pudding. It's made out of what we call batter, B-A-T-T-E-R. It's like the same material or the same ingredients that you use to fry fish. And what you do, when you cook this, it looks like a pie casing, but it's very crisp. And it's just made of batter. And what people do is they put the potatoes inside and they pour gravy over the top. Now, gravy's like a vegetable mix with water. You have like a powder and you mix it up. It's called gravy. And you can pour that on the top and then you eat it along with your beef.
You
and
bake it or?
Yeah, you bake it. You just put it in the oven. Yeah, you can buy them ready-made from the supermarket. You just put them in the oven for a couple of minutes and then you just go crisp. Fill it with your vegetables or potato. Pour your gravy on the top and eat it with your with your meat or your chicken. Just call it Sunday roast.
Sunday roast.
ROAST, Sunday roast, yeah. If you Google it, you'll see the pictures and people can do it. It's very nice, very delicious. Those are the two, I think. Nothing else is good in England. Nothing else is good.
Oh my God.
You got sandwiches. Everybody eats cold food, It's like sandwich.
Yeah.
That's lunchtime. Always it's a sandwich. Like you'd buy in Taiwan, like you would have from 7-Eleven. You buy your sandwich and your drink, as the meal combination. That's what people buy in the UK. And they only eat one hot meal a day. And that's in the evening. But generally, in answer to your question, Irene, avoid English food other than fish and chips and Sunday roast, because the rest is
okay. But what would you eat like back then? Like just sandwich?
Back then,
or I heard some people say that some like international cuisine is quite good there.
Yeah, international cuisine is actually very good. Italian spaghetti is wonderful in the UK. It's probably the closest there is to actual Italian spaghetti, because a lot of Italians have moved there anyway and cook it themselves, don't they, in the restaurants and things. But you're going to pay a high price. But I mean, you can cook it yourself, obviously, from the supermarket. I think the Italian dishes that you can buy and cook yourself are pretty good. I would say we have an influence of dumplings that you have in Taiwan.
Oh,
yeah, dumplings is a culture now in England. I see more people eating dumplings than I ever used to before.
It's like a Italian
Italian,
version
yeah.
dumpling
No,
or Asian?
no. Asian
Asian
dumpling.
version.
Yes, 150% sure. Even back then when I was younger as well, not just like 20 years ago when I lived there, but even younger, people were eating these, and I'm like, I wonder where these are from. Because you never thought until you come to Taiwan you'd ever see these. You're thinking, where are these from? Because they're quite popular, and they're still popular today. Yeah, I think that's the influence of the Chinatowns in the UK that make it popular. You know, but we've gone very multicultural on food in the UK because we don't have a food culture. We don't have food cultures.
But you have alcohol culture.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
very much so. Beer, and more beer. Yeah, different kinds of beer. Yeah, we've got an alcohol culture, that's for sure. It's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. When did you come to Taiwan?
I came to Taiwan 20 years ago. It'll be 21 years next year, actually. So 2003 at the end, 2004.
Wow.
Yeah, beginning 2004. That's when I arrived in Taiwan.
Yeah. What is the reason or the
Why?
key point? Yeah. Why you came?
Key points. I think it's positive since I've been in Taiwan, but it wasn't positive before I came to Taiwan, because I used to work for financial industry before, and unfortunately I lost my job back in the end of 2003, at Christmas actually, 2003.
Oh my God, Christmas time.
Yes, I got told at Christmas that I was going to be losing my job in early 2004, the end of January. But I'd already sort of knew this was coming. I'd prepared for it. So what I actually did was sort out another opportunity. Now, a good friend of mine initially introduced me to teaching. He was actually teaching in Japan. Now, I didn't really wanted to go to Japan, really. I had no feeling for it. But he said, well, why don't you come to London, do a teacher's license, and, you know, you can train to be a teacher, you know, kind of like a TESOL style course. And I said, finance, TESOL, languages. I've got the language background, but I wasn't really moving towards that, thinking not really what I want to do. But I tried it. I thought I've got nothing to lose. So I went and tried it, loved it, passed the course, got the license. And then he said, well, why don't you come to Japan? I said, I don't really want to go to Japan. Then he said, well, he's going to come to Taiwan. So I came to Taiwan, taught English for a while, and it just went on from there, basically. That's how it all started. And I think when you're in Taiwan, what I notice is when you're teaching, 1 year and 1 week just rolls into another week, into a month, into the next month, into the next year. You just don't notice the time going. You know, it's like you probably start, let's say, in January. By the next time you're thinking about anything, you're into December thinking, oh, it's a year gone.
It
And it's
means
just been
that
like
you're
this.
happy in this period.
Yeah,
Pretty
you're
much,
probably
yeah,
not
pretty
getting
mu-
tired of doing
No,
this.
no, I
Yeah.
think it was just literally, initially it took a while to be noticed. You know, you have to get noticed that you're here to work. But once my first job came in, you know, sort of like teaching cram school kids, you know, young kids in cram school. That's where that's what I was doing. Kind of when I'd done that, then it just opened up. I got different offers, you know, from different places. You know, things just went kind of crazy, I guess.
Wow.
You know? But it was a good thing. It was good, you know. And then, like you say, you know, you're teaching, you're enjoying it. And I just think that one class comes, then another one, and you have a schedule. It's just rolling and rolling. So, yeah, 20 years doesn't seem like 20 years, though.
Wow.
Seems about like 10. Yeah, it does. Most people would say, oh, it feels like 50. You know, for me, it's like 10. Yeah, it really is.
But when you first came here, do you have any like culture shock or something?
Oh, yes, very much. Very, very much.
2004, right? You say you came here the first time.
Yes, beginning 2004. Yeah. Culture shock, yes, very much.
Yeah.
It took me a while. It took me probably, I will say, 6 months to get used to it totally. Because you know, you're obviously UK culture's completely different. It's utterly different, you know. I'll share this with you briefly. The biggest one I thought was crossing the road. You know, you can cross and the traffic turns right. And, you know, it could still keep coming even though you were walking across the crossing and you had the green man. That was always a big issue for me. You feel like you want to get angry and you're like, you're road raging kind of thing, but you're not in a car, you know. But that was a big issue for me on culture shock. I think another big culture shock was probably the way people kind of study. The UK, it's more flexible. It's not so test-oriented, you know. I mean, every culture is different, but it's not test-oriented like Taiwan. Like the UK, I mean. UK is kind of mixed. You get your 50-50, you know, you're learning, as I said earlier on, you're learning, you do your extracurricular activities. But I think, you know, Taiwan, it's more gravitated towards, you know, study. And I see, I don't mean this negatively because I'm sure they do, but my first impression of that big culture shock was in the UK, I used to see kids coming out of school very happily at the end of a school day. But when I used to see them in Taiwan, they wouldn't be smiling. They'd be like this.
Oh.
And then just like a robot, and then they're off to cram. And then I would ask why, and they'd say, well, because they need to go and study till 10 at night because they've got to go to cram school to learn, or they've got to go to a bushy band or whatever. So I think that was a big culture shock to me that, wow, they have to study so long in a day compared to UK.
And mostly, like, people are not choosing to go to cram school by themselves.
Correct.
Mostly, they forced
Decided
to by their parents.
Yeah, that's also a shock that I found because the parents in the UK are probably a bit more independent with their kid. You know, they will probably say, well, you know, you choose the path you want to do. But in Taiwan, it's sort of more control, I think. It takes a lot of getting used to. I won't just say Taiwan. I think that's generally in Asia from my experience. But I think it takes a lot of getting used to.
Okay. What about the food? Like when you first came here, do you think it's good or?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally. I think it's brilliant.
Oh, okay.
I do. I think I've told you this before. After you come from the UK, wow, there's a big
No food culture.
No, it's a big eye opener. Do you know what I mean? I was really amazed about there's no day, I don't think, effectively where you could eat the same food twice.
Oh.
Every day you could have something totally different.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? In England, you'd be sandwich, coffee. It's the same thing every day, Monday to Friday. And it'd be the same at night as well, you know, with a little bit of variation. But in Taiwan, you could have something completely and utterly different every single day.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's just wonderful. It is. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Do you have any like favorite food?
I would say the fried chicken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, wonderful. I love that. As I say, I think that's good. I do like that. Generally, all of them, I think. There's not much I don't like. I like, actually, what I found as well, which was another culture shock, but also related to food, was the breakfasts.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
Normally we have
We
cereal.
have a lot of breakfast.
I mean, normally in England we'll have cereal and you have toast, you know, which you can do in Taiwan anyway.
Just like cold food again.
Yeah,
It's
kind
cold
of
food.
thing.
Yeah.
But in Taiwan you have like the buns, don't you? Baozi, I think they call them in Taiwan.
Yeah.
You have the little buns with the meat in them. I was like, wow, people eat this for breakfast. That would be kind of a lunch dish in England, you know, but I ate that for breakfast. I thought, wow, this is better breakfast material. So that's what I eat now generally. In the daytime, I will eat that. The only one I don't like, because I'm sure you're going to ask me the one I don't like, the one I don't like probably would be stinky tofu.
I think that is most of the common answer from foreign.
Because of the smells or the taste.
Yeah, pretty much. I think it's a smell that initially put me off. I have tried it. I won't say I haven't because people say to me, well, have you tried it? Because you can't say you don't like it if you haven't tried it. Tried it, but I just think, did I have the right sauce with it? ? I don't know. Maybe I didn't have the right sauce with it. I don't know.
Probably.
Just the smell that puts me off. I couldn't really get used to the taste, really. I mean, it was a little bit...
It's okay.
I call it rubbery, I guess. There you go. A little bit rubbery for me.
It's all right.
Yeah. some of the Taiwanese people don't like it too.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I mean, it's half. Like some people like it and some people don't like it. So yeah, it's really depend now.
But to sum up, I'd say definitely. I mean, the food is just totally different. You won't find. I don't think, and I mean, I've travelled, but I cannot think of a country. I've travelled to 28 countries, and I cannot think of a country that has such a diversity of food as Taiwan. I'm sure there are, but I just cannot think of one at this point.
We actually talk about how you learn German and French. When you're learning these two language, do you have any like method to make you like enhance your interest in these two language?
For me, if I think in how I did it, I think just immerse yourself in it. I think if you want to learn it properly, you've got to surround yourself by it. I mean, I used to just read a lot of material in German, not just for academic purpose. I'd read about sport news, for example, German football news, German athletics, German swimming, you name it, I'd read about the sport for it. I'd read just a newspaper, not online now, but I mean, back then you'd have to order it as a subscription of a paper newspaper. Right. I'd just read it and, you'd pick up ways to learn the language that way as well, I also think going to the country, not just as an exchange program, but just go there for a holiday. And go there and explore yourself. Find some time within. Don't waste your sort of summertime or your winter vacations. If you can afford it, of course, go there and experience it. Live with the people. The only thing I regret I didn't do, but I think it's a good opportunity to do for people who are studying languages, try and go with a homestay. Homestay family. That is a brilliant way to raise your language in any kind of language. I think with German as well, listening to programs, on the TV we used to have in the UK, we used to have for schools, we used to have these programs that were just general German language programs, like situations where people would be in a cafe, you'd listen to normal conversations, that kind of thing. That's how you pick it up. It's very easy to pick up. And I think reading, I used to read novels in German. So I attempted to read, years ago, even after I'd graduated, I probably tried it and didn't really work. But I tried to read Harry Potter in German.
Wow.
And that's hard. That's challenging.
Is this thicker than the English version?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, just a little bit. It's like carrying a brick about this, big, But yeah, that's hard. But I think reading, you got to surround yourself by it. I think it's the only way to learn it.
Yeah.
But that is more of the input, right?
Yes.
Yeah. But really expose yourself in that environment.
Oh, definitely. You have to. There's no point learning it from just sitting in a classroom. You can't do it that way.
But for Taiwanese people, like we learn English very young, like when we are in elementary school.
That's right.
But I think like so many people will have this problem is like we can read, sometimes we can listen and we can understand, but we are afraid to like speak or write or like what you say, like output is more difficult for us.
It's like the confidence issue, like to really.
Do you have any recommendation on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you've just said, I think the reading's okay because you can expose yourself to that. I think that's pretty okay. I think your listening's pretty okay because you can hear it. You just go online and hear that. But I think for speaking purposes, that's the most difficult. I think it's a confidence issue. What I mean is, I think that without being disrespectful, I think Taiwanese have the issue about they don't want to make a mistake. They have this belief that, I can't say that because I might make a mistake. I might get it wrong and I'll look embarrassed and my kind of Chinese face is embarrassed. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a negative way to look at it. I think what you need to think is, come on, try it. You've got to learn by making mistakes. So, I mean, find a Westerner. Even online, find a Westerner. Talk to them. Talk to them about anything. Do you know what I mean? Even what I call study buddy. If you don't want to pay for a class, you study buddy, don't you? And whatever. But or sign up for an English class. Use your language. Try it. There's no point thinking, I don't want to say it. I want to learn it, but I don't want to speak it because I'll make a mistake. That's the wrong way to approach it. I think you need to use it. And if you have the opportunity, visit an English-speaking country. America, England, if you have that opportunity, take it. Don't waste it because you'll learn so much more.
Yeah, that's true.
But I have a question here.
Yeah,
Just
sure.
like sometimes, like maybe some Taiwanese people, they would, worry about the grammar issue though. But the thing is, like, even maybe we know how to construct all the vocabulary that we know, but the first thing and maybe the slightly difficult thing is that because the language differences, just like you need to train your mind or your brain to have the English logic though. Just like, is there any way to have that kind of training?
Well, I think initially when you said about, the structure of the grammar and the sentence pattern, and they worry about getting the grammar wrong. First point I'll make is don't worry about getting it wrong. Get it wrong first. Try it. All right. You are going to make mistakes. I did when I did German. Made 500, I think, in the first week. Professor's hair's falling out. He's that stressed out when, it's like, come on, where's your verb? Where's your verb? But back to the original point in English, I think don't be afraid to make a mistake. Use it. And if you're using it, try to find the right person to correct you. What I'm saying is probably find a tutor, probably find a class where you have a native speaker, and they will be able to change that for you. They'll be able to give you a principle, like a formula to change that. I think it's not something you can do on your own. Speaking out on your own and not being afraid to make mistakes, you can do that independently, but you'd probably need to find a class. It's probably wise to find a tutor to just polish that, because if you are speaking and you've got kind of about a 30, 40, 50% understanding of the language but not quite structured right, with a tutor's help you'll polish that very quickly. Very, very quickly.
But how about the fluency though?
Fluency, you've got to practice. No other teacher, you could speak to an American, you could speak to you could speak to a native speaker. Any native speaker, an American or a British person, they'll always tell you the same thing. Fluency is about using the language and not being afraid to make mistakes. Doesn't matter how it sounds, just come out with something. If you're always too nervous, withdrawn like this, you're like, a lot of the breaks with the in Taiwanese speaking of English is because they're just not confident. They're too afraid to make mistakes.
You're blocking your output though.
Correct. But you the only way you're going to do it is to practice it regularly. It's no point, I don't think there's any point, you say, well, I'll dedicate 2 hours a week to it. No, that's not enough. I'll dedicate 2 hours a month to it, for example. That's an exaggeration, but it's not enough. You're going to have to start saying, well, look, I need this regularly. I have to set aside maybe an hour a day to improve my fluency. One tip I would give, this is only my tip, but I'll share it with people, is if you can speak English, and most people can have, student-wise, they have a good understanding of it, talk to yourself on things you are doing every day. Like when you get up in the morning, you can talk to yourself either out loud, probably can't when you're brushing your teeth, but you can do it in your mind. But you know what I mean, right? I'm brushing my teeth. Now I'll make a cup of coffee. That will help improve. Just talk to yourself for 30 minutes a day or something. That helps.
Yeah, just practice it every day.
That's it. Yeah. You have
I think the frequency is quite important when you're
Very
learning
much.
it.
Yeah, frequency, yeah.
I call it, we've got to be careful how I say this now, but I call it the 2 Fs.
2 Fs.
2 Fs. Frequency equals fluency. There we go.
Okay.
That's how I would do it.
Wow, this is a golden
Golden
title.
Yeah.
Today. Can you say that again to the camera?
I can. The 2 Fs. Frequency equals fluency.
Nice. So, I think we learned a lot about that, about UK or how to learn a new language.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, and before we ending this episode, can you share a little bit about your lesson?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Well, I do 2 kinds of classes in Yangshaw. 3 actually, sometimes. 3 kinds of classes I do. I do a general 5x1 speaking class, IELTS class, tutor class, and TOEFL as well. I think with the speaking class, my intention is, as we spoke about earlier, to get people to be more fluent, use the language, So what I would do is we'll share discussion kind of topics, related to kind of everyday life, things you see in everyday life. And I'll also do sort of group work pair them up or put them into groups of like 2s usually, because there's only 5 in the class, and have them in groups and talk about different topics and share their own opinions with each other, get them to speak English so that they're confident speaking to each other in English, not just to the teacher, because that's going to be important as well. For things like TOEFL and IELTS 1-to-1, you know, we'd practice all the areas of the test: listening, speaking, reading and writing, you know, improve grammar, fluency for speaking, same with writing, and the same applies to TOEFL as well. It's a case where, you know, make the student the centre of the class and get them to practice as much as they can.
So if you right now wanted to improve your English, you want to improve your, no matter is your listening or speaking or anything, you can find Martin to help you.
Please do. Most welcome.
Yeah.
Come and see me. I'll help you. Okay.
Yeah, or you have any like other question about UK?
Yeah. Anything you want to know about the UK? Anything you want to know? If you want to go study there and you want to ask me,
Talk about
please
it.
come and talk to me about
it though. Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that would be today's episode. Thank you
Wonderful.
so much for coming.
Ladies, thank you very much indeed. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for your time. I've enjoyed being here today, sharing some thoughts about
It's
the
our
UK.
pleasure too.
So that will be today's episode of Interesting. See you guys next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.